Thank you so much for doing this. Please could you introduce yourself and tell us all about your vision for transforming how we move around?
Yeah, I'm Saswat Panigarhi. I'm the Chief Product Officer of Waymo. Waymo is a company that's been at trying to bring safety to transportation for over 15 years. We're delivering more than hundreds of thousands of fully autonomous rides in 5 cities across the US, and we just announced that we're coming to London.
How will you come to London? Are you going to take on Uber? Are people going to trust here in the UK that they can get into a car without a driver and be dropped off successfully at the right location?
Yeah, so we will be coming here with the Waymo app, but we're partnering with Move to handle the operations and the rollout here. But yeah, from our experience, having launched this in 5+ markets and having delivered 10 million rides, we believe when Londoners try this out, they're going to love it.
So explain to us how it works. How would I book a ride?
Yeah, so you just open the Waymo app, put in a destination, and a fully empty car will come and pick you up, and you'll have the space all to yourself. You can play music as loudly as you want, nobody's going to judge, and you'll feel safe, both from the driving as well as having the personal space to yourself.
What about trust, this issue? And I know it's been working where
Yeah.
you've rolled it out in the United States. We know that our car, this driverless car computer, isn't going to get drunk. It's probably not going to get lost like a human could.
Distracted, tired, any of those things?
But are we there to say, I'm going to trust a computer to get me from one place to another rather than a person?
Yeah. So look, hundreds of thousands of rides are happening right now. So people are doing that today. So this is not something in the future. But let's break down trust into a few elements. From a safety standpoint, we can say today, based on 96 million miles of fully autonomous driving, nobody in the front seat, that we are reducing injury-causing collisions by 5 times. We're reducing injury-causing collisions to pedestrians by 12x. So this is incredible safety data that we're already publishing for anybody to look at on our website. On top of that, we work with local stakeholders, everybody from the local government all the way to state and federal government. We're engaged here with 10 Downing Street, with Transport for London. We're engaged with the Metropolitan Police. We're meeting the London Fire Brigade. So we're working at all levels to make sure we're doing this in a manner that's acceptable and buys the trust and earns the trust of everybody here in the community. And finally, for riders, just speak to any rider that has ever ridden in a Waymo in any of those 10 million rides, and they'll tell you that they get there safe, and this is one of the best transportation experiences they've had.
I do know someone who took a Waymo and had not had, I think, for the first part of their experience, a really fantastic one.
Yeah.
And then they came under a risk from a Waymo, not from the car, but from people. And it was people who hijacked the vehicle, this is in LA, and used it to then blockade the road. So, people came up to the window in balaclavas and said, you've got to get out. And so they did, and abandoned the vehicle. Are you seeing incidents like that?
Look, I mean, protests or civil unrest or physical, it's a road safety issue, and I think Waymo is designed and has multiple layers of safety. So, for example, when there are planned things, we coordinate with local law enforcement. So, if there's a planned protest somewhere, we avoid that area. The vehicles share intelligence with each other. So, when one vehicle sees something forming that may not have been planned, it tells the other vehicles. The vehicles also have intelligence to detect hostile crowds. And finally, we are always there to support our riders. So at the touch of a button, they can be connected with a rider support agent who can call, for example, the emergency services if something unsafe is happening. But overall, I think we're always there for our riders.
Did you think that some form of protest was going to be inevitable?
Look, the protests, the ones in LA, were not directed at Waymo. They were on a different topic, and it happened that in the common fabric of the city, when you're delivering millions of rides, it of course can happen that there's an interaction. But overall, I feel like, we talked about some of the city agencies, but right now in San Francisco, for example, bicyclists, they really love Waymos because they know that Waymo leaves enough space for them. So there are all of these local associations, and here in the UK, actually, we just recently had, some of the folks from the Royal National Institute for the Blind, who visited Atlanta and took a ride and came away super impressed.
You can't guarantee total safety, can you?
No, look, while the vehicles are moving, in fact, the most common form of collisions Waymos get into right now is that we're stopped at a red light and somebody hits us from behind. So there is some risk, but a whole host of collisions. There are 1.3 million deaths in the world from road accidents. Many of them, a vast majority of them can be prevented because they are for the reasons that you mentioned: distraction, tiredness, and that distraction problem is only getting worse.
What's the second most cause of accidents then?
It's more than 90% plus is unfortunately still very much human error.
Take me to the streets of London in 10 years' time.
Yeah.
What do you think they're going to look like?
I would hope that they are provided by fully autonomous, entirely safe, and space for riders where they can truly unwind, they can trust the riders, they can take confidential calls. If it's a couple going for a date night, they can speak to each other without having the space to themselves. And perhaps even teens going to schools, which we have started in Phoenix, where parents trust the Waymo driver to carry the teens to school as well.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Eric, thank you for doing this. Can you introduce yourself to me and tell us a little bit about your job?
Sure. My name is Eric Allison. I'm Chief Product Officer for Joby Aviation. And we are developing a vertical takeoff and landing all-electric aircraft that'll be an air taxi. And we're working on actually building out the service so that you can order it on your phone through one of our partners or on our own app and be able to go anywhere you want by flying through the air on demand.
So the future in your mind is flying taxis on demand on your phone.
I think that's part of the future, absolutely. And it's super exciting because who doesn't want to take a flying taxi to get to where they want to go instead of sitting in traffic for, it took me an hour and a half to get to take a taxi from Heathrow to real near here at a hotel yesterday. And it'd be much better to take 7 minutes flying.
So explain to me how it would work. Let's say I got out at the airport and I wanted to get into the city from Heathrow. What's the plan?
So just like today, if you want to take an Uber, if you want to take a taxi, you can open up an app and select that option. You'll be able to open up an app from one of our partners like Uber or our own app, Joby. Select the Joby option. If you're near, if you could walk to a vertiport, so a takeoff and landing spot, you could do that. If not, we'll just send a car to pick you up and take you to that closest vertiport, where you'll just get into one of our aircraft that'll be waiting for you there on demand, and other people will be having the same experience. And so what we can do is bring together people going in the same direction and then actually drive kind of the economics to really work well. High utilization, fill all the seats on the aircraft, and get people there really fast to do it all on demand, powered by the software in the back end.
I can see numerous issues ahead. What are the big hurdles you've got to get through before you can literally lift off?
So we've got to solve a whole bunch of problems, and we've actually been working on many of them for quite a while, actually. So we have to solve the aircraft itself. So we've been designing, building, certifying this aircraft for a good number of years now, and we're really heading toward the final stretch with the FAA in the US to get this aircraft certified. But we also have to work with local governments, so on takeoff and landing spots. And that's really pretty critical as well, because it's great to have an air taxi, but it's not so great if you have no place to take off and land. So we have to work with local governments to find the right way to permit and establish new infrastructure so that you can actually take this amazing form of mobility as close to where you live and work as possible.
So you need to finalize the flying taxi. You also need to get permission to be able to do this. I mean, who controls the rights to the air that you'll be flying in?
So we are going to work in the airspace just like any other small aircraft today does. So we actually designed this aircraft to integrate into existing airspace systems with no large changes needed. So we don't need any kind of new rules or regulations because it's a piloted aircraft. It just takes off and lands differently, and it's all powered by electricity. So it's got really amazing acoustics, so super quiet when it's flying over and really quiet when it takes off and lands. And also it just integrates in the same way as any pilot would fly a helicopter or a small airplane today.
I was going to ask, how's this different to chartering a helicopter?
So the idea is that by having an aircraft that actually is all electric, the operating costs can be a lot lower. So in the same way that chartering a helicopter today could be pretty expensive, and you have limited takeoff and landing locations because helicopters are noisy, and people really don't want them flying over or taking off and landing in their backyard, unless it's their helicopter, I suppose. But we think that this type of technology actually opens up the aperture of where you can operate them and where people will want them to be operated, and make it a lot more efficient, so the network will work more efficiently, the utilization will be higher, and we can actually drive the costs lower and make it more accessible to more people.
And let's take that journey from Heathrow Airport right into the City of London. How much is that going to cost one passenger?
So our goal is to launch this at something like Uber Black pricing on a per seat basis. And so we think we can do that, and we think that we can make all the costs work out that way.
Tell us roughly what that would be.
Well, it depends on the market. So, but it certainly is It's something that is accessible to at least a segment of the population on a regular basis. However, as we're able to actually drive and make that network more efficient and actually fill those seats and use these aircraft over and over and over again on a daily basis, we'll be able to make that price get lower and lower and more like a taxi or an UberX type pricing in terms of the per seat pricing for the aircraft. So that's the goal, and we have to do a bunch of hard work from the operations and the software to get it there, but we think it's pretty doable.
You think it's doable. I might be listening thinking this is pure fantasy. I mean, when do you see there being liftoff realistically for that first passenger?
So what we're targeting right now is to start kind of the final phase of FAA certification work early next year. So that's the last critical phase that's in between now and commercialization in markets like the US and the UK. We're also working in Dubai. So in Dubai, we have a special relationship with the Dubai government to provide air taxis there, and are working with the UAE regulator, the GCAA is what it's called, to actually accelerate the introduction of these aircraft into commercial service based on that final FAA testing, but without completing all of the FAA testing, because not all of it applies in the UAE. So we think that as early as next year, you're going to be able to go to Dubai and take one of our air taxis, go from the airport to your hotel in style.
Dubai first, presumably then the US, when the UK?
So we've been working with the UK CAA now for a number of years on making sure that it's called validation. So you get the certification in the US, and then you have to get it validated to go into another market with a different regulator. We've been working hard with the UK CAA to chart out that pathway for validation, so we can go as fast as possible for once we get that certification in the US and get it validated in the UK and start operating here. And we have a partner here in the UK that we announced earlier this year, Virgin Atlantic, who we're going to be working really closely with and super excited about this technology, and we want to get it here as fast as we can.
Eric, thank you so much.
Thank you.